The last video where I talked about weird food was really funny, wasn't it? Let's see what we're going to talk about today. Spoilers for the movie Heat. And it's a great film you should go watch if you haven't seen it yet. I won't do the movie YouTuber thing where I just explain the whole movie and never give any insight, but I have to tell you how we get to the greatest instance of symbolism I have ever seen. Heat is a 1995 heist crime thriller. The movie opens cold and slow on a morning train. Our main character, Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro, steps off. He looks tired but ready. We see him make his way through a hospital in a pair of EMT coveralls. Next at a warehouse, we see Chris, played by Val Kilmer, buying explosives. He uses a fake ID and a fake company, only paying with cash. What's notable is not just that both of them are calculated, but their difference in expression. Chris is doing his best to remain calm. Neil is calm. Next, we have a minute-long makeout scene between Lieutenant Vincent Hanna, played by the, at the time, 55-year-old Al Pacino, and his wife Justine, played by Diane Venora. Well, good for you, Diane! He wakes up to his loving wife and his stepdaughter greeting him as he prepares for work. He leaves a high-end house and a nice new car, especially for 1995, a black Infiniti J30. By all visible regards, he has achieved the American dream. Next follows a scene of our newest character, Waingro, played by Kevin Gates. Neil was calm. Chris tried to act calm. Waingro is worse than calm. He's casual. And when you're casual, you're sloppy. Waingro meets a man named Michael in a large tow truck, clearly planned in advance. As they make small talk along the way, Michael mentions how they keep their crew real tight. Waingro says that if this all goes well, then he's willing to help them again, seeing himself as quite valuable. Right after, however, Michael asks him to stop talking. Michael seems quiet, but most realistically, his nerves are on edge because of what they're about to do. His posture is arched forward, his eyes forward, and both hands tightly on the wheel. He's taking this seriously, unlike Waingro. Waingro either doesn't notice this, or doesn't care. He whips his glasses off in full anger and stares a hole through Michael. Michael's eyes being fixed to the road, he does not see this. We get a new shot of Neil in his EMT outfit sitting in an ambulance. He talks over the radio to another man in a car played by Danny Trejo, named Trejo. We see what Trejo is doing in a new angle over his shoulder. He's telling their target. Neil and Chris wait. Michael backs the tow truck behind some pillars out of sight. Trejo tells them to get ready. They confirm they are. And not even 10 minutes into the movie, we get the most iconic scene in a heist film. They take position. They have 3 minutes until the cops arrive. They blast the door open and pull the guards out. Waingro and Michael watch the guards. Neil watches the road. Chris looks for what they're after. 80 seconds. One of the guards in a daze from the blast stands in front of Waingro, not cowering like the others. Waingro waves a gun in his face, shouting to get back. Michael tells him, "Hey Slick, you see that stuff coming out of his ears? He can't hear you. Calm down." Chris finds what they need and they clear out. The heist is over. They did it. It's over before they know it. Waingro started it, but Neil gives the go-ahead as Michael shoots the other guards. A small piece of real-world police work in politics? If a man robs someone and no one was hurt, most likely that case will never be solved. They don't care, and it's a waste of resources, especially if that person was reimbursed with their insurance. But if a man on any kind of duty dies during a crime, you'll spend the rest of your life waiting to have your door knocked down. The law takes that very personally. It is over before they know it. Robbery homicide. Lieutenant Vincent takes the case. All they have on the scene is a homeless man that was hiding nearby under the bridge, where the tow truck was. He said one of the men called the other Slick. Michael, Waingro, and Chris sit in a diner after their successful heist. Neil enters and sits beside Waingro. all of them very visibly on edge aside from Wengro, whose only concern in the world is the pie on his plate. Without a word and only a glance around the table, Wengro begins to explain and justify his act of executing the guard. Neil smashes his face into the table. A few customers notice, but soon go back to minding their own business. Wengro does not retaliate, and Neil says all of their even cuts are in the car outside. As they make their way outside, in the dark and out of sight, Neil beats Wengro down and pulls a gun, clearly preparing to kill him. He's a liability. In a universal act of irony, however, Michael tells Neil to wait as cops are just outside the diner parking lot and will hear the gunshot. Soon, however, the cops pull off, and Neil turns back towards the ground where Wengro lay. He's gone. Lieutenant Vincent returns home. The ocean outside his house is deep blue and calm, just like the sky and just like that morning. Lieutenant Vincent is tired, but ready. Chris goes home to his wife, who knows of his criminal lifestyle. She confronts him about his gambling habits, and how they've lost most of their money already. They are clearly both materialistic about his money, and Chris tells her she can leave. She threatens to take custody of their son, clearly out of spite. This enrages him and he storms off in his car. Neil goes to a restaurant to wind down with a book about medals he found from a library. A woman there beside him asks about what he is reading. He is cautious and confused, but sees this woman as kind and has a genuine interest. This is more than a movie's love interest. This is a normal person. The first normal person in Neil's life in a long time. A breath of fresh air that he didn't know he needed. Her name is Edie.
Let's violate his ass right now.
John Voight plays Nate, the man who takes their findings in heists and sells them. The item they stole from the truck is completely insured. Neil and Nate agree it's best to sell back what they stole to the man they stole it from at 60% value. His name is Van Zantz. This would lead to the criminals getting an immediate paycheck and Zantz making 140% profit. Zantz speaks to Nate over the phone and very plainly agrees to the deal. As soon as Zantz hangs up, he says to his associate that he's going to kill them. Neil comes home to see Chris drunk and asleep on the floor. They have coffee and Chris asks why he doesn't have a wife or anything of note in his house.
Remember Jimmy McElwain on the yard used to say you want to be making moves on the street, have no attachments, allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat around the corner. Remember that?
For me, the sun rises and sets with her, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris has a wife and child, but the attitude and spending habits of a young teenager. He's put himself into a life he cannot leave and was never ready for to begin with. He's stuck. Behind them is the same calm ocean that Lieutenant Vincent looked out on. Still calm, and still waiting. We see a man played by Dennis Haysbert outside a diner with his wife. He kisses her goodbye and without viewer context assures her he's fine. He walks inside and introduces himself to the floor manager as Donald Breeden. He tells the manager his parole officer told him to find him and that he has a job for him. The manager, in a sarcastic but neutral manner, tells him he isn't there to cook like he assumed he was. He's the janitor and he'll do whatever he tells him to. Donald seems ready to cooperate without objection, but without even looking at him, the manager tells him if he is given a hard time, he will lie and claim he broke parole. 25% of his pay will go back to him, and he claims that's just the way it is. Don's eyes, like Wengro's, burn a hole through him. Neil, after talking with Chris, goes and confronts Chris's wife.
Here's the deal. You will give Chris one last shot. After that, he fucks up, then I will finance setting you up myself, on my own, any way you want. Dominic will go with you, and my word counts. But right now, you will give him the chance.
This is his last shot. Lieutenant Vincent meets a rat and his brother at a nightclub. They tell him what he needs to know, but only after Lieutenant Vincent thoroughly threatens them.
This cat I was locked up with in Folsom. Did a couple, 2-3 years. He got out, I ran into him.
And so?
He's a big fiend for action. Now, if he'd have said nothing, I'd have thought nothing. But he goes on and on, running down to me how he ain't been doing nothing and nothing's been going on and all this other bullshit. So right then and there, I know this cat's got something going down.
Pretty fucking great. Albert, what's wrong with you? You dragged me here. Waste my time like this. You saw a guy on the street who's an ex-con.
That's right.
Well, I am over fucking well. What do you want for that, a junior G-Man badge?
Look here, man. You gonna make the call on them portions or what?
Is you kidding me?
Hey, I'm telling you, man, this slick is no motherfucking joke, man. You know what I'm saying?
Say what? Say what?
What?
You said slick. What does that mean?
Slick. That's what he calls people. Slick.
And tell me about him.
About 6 feet tall. A lot of jailhouse tats. Got a big-ass peacock right here.
What's his name?
Chirito. Michael Chirito.
Learning this, Lieutenant Vincent calls in to get a profile on Michael. 33 busts since 1976, 11 for armed robbery, 3 convictions, 8 years in prison. The police know him and where he is. They make plans to bug his car, house, and always keep eyes on him. The rope tightens only within 48 hours. The following day, Neil waits in an abandoned drive-in theater to make the deal with the businessman, Van Zantz. Neil is alone in his car, waiting for another car with only one man. As Neil sees the other car, he instructs the driver with what to do. Another man steps out of the driver's trunk. As the driver tosses the package into Neil's passenger seat window, the man from the trunk approaches with a gun. Chris is watching from a distance and warns him with an earpiece to reverse. Neil backs over the man as Chris lays down fire on the truck from a distant rooftop. As the truck attempts to leave, Michael steps out from the exit gate and kills the driver. They soon find the package is only loose scrap paper. Neil with Chris and Michael find another phone and call Van Zantz. He asks if the deal went alright, but Neil says to him,
Tell you what, forget the money.
What?
Forget the money.
It's a lot of money. What are you doing? What do you mean, forget the money?
What am I doing? I'm talking to an empty telephone.
I don't understand.
Because there was a dead man on the other end of this fucking line.
now nobody has made their money. The heist was successful, but they haven't sold it off. And Van Zantz hasn't made anything back. Everyone is right where they started, except for Lieutenant Vincent, who is only getting closer. As if unaware of this, or just choosing to ignore it, Michael, Neil, Chris, and Trejo all go out to dinner with their families. For the first time, we see Michael has a wife and daughter, and Trejo also has a wife. Neil excuses himself and calls Edie. They agree over the phone that they do both like each other. More than only one night. Michael is at dinner with every other criminal and their family. Lieutenant Vincent and other detectives watch from a nearby roof as they all leave the restaurant. And with this, Lieutenant Vincent sees Neil. Donald meets back with his wife, feeling unjustly judged by the system as he says he did time for what his boss does every day. His wife understands but asks him to wait until things get better. She asks if he can manage that. He says he can do anything for them, but asks why she stays with him. Because I'm proud of you. Neil and Edie talk about how they were meant to meet. Neil asks her to go with him to New Zealand. He says he has money and he could give her a studio, whatever she wants. She says he doesn't know her. I know enough. Come with me. She agrees.
Why'd I get mixed up with that bitch?
Because she got a great ass. And you got your head all the way up it.
Jesus.
Through an eventual setup, Lieutenant Vincent is driving and finds Neil on the highway. He pulls him over, with which Neil cooperates. There is no act. Lieutenant Vincent goes to his window and tells him he will buy Neil a cup of coffee. Neil knows that the lieutenant knows who he is and agrees. They go to the diner and talk. They share how their lives are not normal, and Vincent says he knows his marriage is on a downward slope, but they both know they can't change.
I don't know how to do anything else. Neither do I. I don't much want to either. Neither do I. I have one where I'm drowning. And I gotta wake myself up and start breathing while I die in my sleep. You know what that's about? Yeah, having enough time. Enough time to do what you want to do. That's right. You doing it now? No, not yet.
They empathize with each other, but before they are done, Vincent assures Neil. He doesn't want to, but if the time comes between him and an innocent man, he will kill him. And this, at the 1 hour and 34-minute mark, is the first instance of two rival parties talking plainly. No pride, no spite, no anger. This is the way things are, and simply put, if they both continue, it will not change. By the end, Neil mentions as if offering, or maybe we will never see each other again. Vincent does not respond, and their silence speaks for them. They will not stop. Waingro walks into Zant's office. He says he knows Neil. Neil, Chris, and Michael have breakfast at a diner. Neil asks Chris if he recognizes the grill man. It's Donald. Trejo calls and tells Neil to call him through another line. Neil calls and Trejo tells them he is being followed by cops. Neil cuts him off from their next score as he is a liability with eyes on him. Trejo apologizes and hangs up. They have no driver. Neil walks into the back and greets Donald, who immediately recognizes him. He asks what he's doing, and Neil quickly replies that he's looking for a driver. He presents him with an immediate yes or no option. Donald hesitates and looks around, but all the same, he accepts. Edie packs her things, Chris's wife watches her child, and Neil walks into the bank. Chris walks into the bank. Michael is ready by the tellers. They put on their masks and Chris beats down a guard. Michael attacks another and Neil holds the crowd at gunpoint. No going back. Neil instructs everyone to stay on the floor and put their hands on their head. Neil takes the vault key and hands it to Chris. Chris packs all the bills in the vault in bags. At this moment, a call is made, and Vincent's entire office is alerted. Far East National Bank, 11:30. Michael calmly removes his mask and walks out of the bank with his bag. The police make calls to preemptively set up roadblocks. Michael gets into the car Donald is sitting in and waits for Chris and Neil. Neil makes his way out as a car with Vincent on the road approaches. The criminals haven't noticed. Vincent says to not shoot until everyone is in the car. Chris follows behind Neil and Vincent stands against a pillar out of sight, gun in hand, beside his squad mates. Neil enters passenger side. Over the hood of a passing car, Chris sees armed cops across the street. He immediately opens fire. The crowd panics and disperses as Michael shouts at Don to start the car. Chris alternates angles and shoots the cops down the block and ahead of him and to the left. An agent is shot in the neck and killed on the spot. Chris enters the car and Donald speeds off. Just as it seems they are making good distance, a cop blows out one of their tires. As the car is shot at, still speeding along, the cops aim for the driver. Donald is killed. The car crashes directly into another and far ahead of them is the roadblock. They did not know there would be one. Michael and Chris get out and lay down fire on the roadblock. Neil alternates suppressive fire with them and holds another angle, giving them both time to run. Far off behind them, Lieutenant Vincent and the others try to catch up. The criminals do their best to advance but only move a few yards at a time. Neil creates more suppressive fire to allow Chris to move up, but Michael can't make it. He stays hidden where he is. Michael leaves the group and runs the other direction. Several cops break off and pursue him. A cop wings Chris in his shoulder and Neil pulls him to his feet. As Neil and Chris make a run for it, we see the destruction left in their wake. Lieutenant Vincent and several officers pursue. Neil occasionally spins around to fire into the crowd, hitting whoever could be in their way. He shoves Chris into a random person's empty car and speeds off in reverse. All Lieutenant Vincent can do is head towards the gunshots. Michael runs through an outdoor courtyard, chased by police. In the panic of a crowd is a lost little girl. Michael grabs her and continues to run. Lieutenant Vincent has the drop on him from behind, but the little girl is in the way. He can't take the shot yet. Michael has not seen him. Vincent steadies his aim and waits. And as he turns, Vincent shoots him in between the eyes. He falls. Michael is killed. The news reports on the events, and at a nearby bar, Donald's wife learns of his death. Neil finds a man to patch up Chris. He pays him for his work and his clothes. As Chris is half awake, Neil tells him that Nate will pick him up. Neil says they need to get out of there, but even in his pain and delirium, Chris says he won't go without her. In silence, Neil goes to Trejo's house, believing he ratted them out. It's there that Neil finds Trejo's bloody body, and Trejo tells him it was Waingro. Neil asks him, on his own? For someone. Who? Zant, the businessman. Neil offers to call a medic, but Trejo says he won't make it, and his wife is gone. Killed by Waingro. He tells Neil to not leave him like this, and Neil shoots him. Trejo is killed. Neil calls Nate to ask him where Zant lives. Nate tells him he lives on Hillside Terrace and assures him that Chris is with him. Neil asks for Waingro's location too. Nate asks if he has the time. He says he'll make time. Neil finds Van Zant's house. As Zant sits and watches the TV, unexpecting, Neil smashes a large window and holds him at gunpoint, demanding to know where Waingro is. Zant asks, how the hell would I know? And Neil shoots him. Chris's wife and son are brought to a house full of cops for safety upon her own request. She agrees to turn Chris in for the sake of their own son. The cop there calls Lieutenant Vincent to let them know she will be a witness. Lieutenant Vincent informs him and the other agent on the line that Waingro was the one to sell out Neil to Van Zant. Since Zant is dead, Neil will most likely go after Wangro next, and they have his location. He just booked a suite at the airport marquee under a different alias. They set up officers at the hotel to watch the cameras, expecting Neil to show. Neil goes home to find Edie. She's afraid and confused. Neil plainly tells her that the robbery was him, yes, and they need to get packed and leave. Edie runs out the door, and as Neil chases her down, the sun rises over the hills. He holds her and she asks, "Why did you do this to me?" And he only responds, "It's going to be alright." The following morning she asks when she can leave. Neil says now. The door's right there. She asks if he will let her leave later. All he says is that it will be different. Vincent comes home to find his wife has openly cheated on him in an attempt to get a reaction. In the midst of a high and an act of desperation for closure, she has put it out there only to make Vincent mad. He audibly assures her he is mad, but he is busy and too deep in his work. He doesn't have the time nor chooses to look for it. Neil meets Nate and Nate provides him with all the fake documents he needs to leave the country. He has an open window to board a plane, 5 minutes. Neil asks where Chris is. He's gone. Went to look for his wife. Neil that evening meets Edie, only with this.
I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I know life is short. Whatever time you get is luck. You want to walk? You walk right now. Or on your own. On your own, you choose to come with me. But all I know is there's no point in me going anywhere anymore. It's gonna be alone. Without you.
And without a word, she agrees. Chris's wife stands up by the balcony of the hideout, agents inside, as she waits for Chris to approach in his car. He steps out of the car. She looks down at him from the balcony as he smiles up at her. He sees a sadness in her face from a distance and his smile fades. An emotion too subtle for the agents to notice, she signals for him to leave. Her expression weak and with Chris holding back tears, he leaves. She re-enters the building and tells the agents it's not him. Despite this, the agent doubts her and calls in to check the car anyway. The cops pull him over. He has a forged license from Nate, all valid through the DMV. They let him go. Chris and his family get away, but they'll never be together. Vincent at the station believes it's too late and that Neil is already gone. He opts to go to the hotel, take a shower, and in his own words, sleep for a month. There in his hotel, in the tub, is the body of his stepdaughter. She has slit the arteries on her arms and her thigh, through the rejection of her family and the ignorance of Vincent. He acts fast to patch her up and carry her to the hospital. The doctors, whilst trying to save her, ask, "When was the last time anybody saw her?" He says, "I don't know." Vincent and his wife come together again, and she pulls through to recovery. This creates the perfect window. Neil and Edie are driving towards the airport. The music swells ceremoniously as Neil calls Nate. Nate tells them that they will arrive right on time, but also that he found Wangro is at Marquee. He says he assumed Neil wouldn't care anymore. Neil says he's right. They say goodbye for the last time. Edie asks what is it, and Neil replies, "Nothing. Home free," and they smile. They drive into a tunnel of light as the music chimes. The light at the end of the tunnel. Neil and Edie make it out. And then the tunnel ends. Neil has always been working towards the light, to get out, and he has it. The camera stays on him, and his eyes shift.
I gotta take care of something.
Is there time?
This time.
There's no time at all. His spite finds him, his pride, his rage, his petty revenge, for once the music is not that of a heist movie. It's a horror. He has a chance. Every second that passes, he gets closer to losing it. Surely he must know. Surely he must know the cops are waiting. He doesn't care. Pride does not care for reason. Revenge does not care for who comes out on top, only that we all go down together. The camera follows behind Neil for the entire time he's in the hotel, like death is right behind him, right behind Wangro, right behind both of them. The music stagnates, only with twinges of tension and stings of what to expect. Neil is inconspicuous, but the employees were told what to look for. Neil reaches Wangro's floor and pulls the fire alarm. The floor evacuates, and Neil gets his way into his room. Neil kills Wangro. The cops see Neil is there. Neil returns to the car with Edie, but sees the cops approaching in the distance. 30 seconds or less. Heat around the corner. He leaves Edie and runs. The music is sorrowful. Neil foots it to the airport. Lieutenant Vincent on the scene alone, following close. They trade shots against cover. The music is then calm, as if a war has already ended. Vincent shoots Neil. Neil sits quietly as Vincent approaches. The music is relieving. They are finally free. Neil dies. The end. Pride eats at the minds and egos of people. We all aim for the light at the end of the tunnel, thinking that if we reach it, we couldn't possibly make the decision to pull ourselves back down. Wangro could have ignored the guard. Neil could have killed Wangro elsewhere aside from the diner. Chris could have stopped gambling and stayed home with his family. Donald could have pushed through the work. Michael could have left the bank job. Zance could have taken the deal. Vincent is the representation of dedication in the American dream, but the issues and truths that can come with it. The light at the end of the tunnel is not enough, and for Neil, even when he had it all, neither was the dream. Pride will always be the killer of people, because it's a weakness that we choose. Choose to be better.